us right now, Mike Ceide. And Mike, you've been there in Memphis for quite some time now. You have a really interesting dynamic because, here in Mobile, obviously we cover, we're kind of a tri-state market here, but you get to cover a lot of programs both in and out of the SEC. First off, welcome to Southeast Sports Plus. Let's talk about your background just a little bit as you make your maiden voyage here with us.
Well, thanks, guys. Yeah, I've been here. December will be 28 years, and I got here before the Grizzlies got here. That'll tell you how long I've been here. But it is, you can use the word unique, but you can also use the word tremendous sports market because we sit here right on the mighty Mississippi, WREG. So we're just a bridge away from Arkansas, who's making the trip to Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium on Saturday. But we also cover the Tennessee Volunteers and then Mississippi State and Ole Miss out of the Magnolia State, and then our Memphis Tigers. So we get the opportunity to cover 5 teams as local teams because the fan bases here are just tremendous for all of those 4 SEC teams. And that's not even mentioning the Alabamas or the Georgias. There's so many fan bases that have called Memphis home. So it's quite a unique sports market. It makes my job so much easier because there's just so much excitement over so many different teams. But right now, the way Ryan Silverfield and the Tigers have this football program going and what Penny's doing with the basketball team, Memphis Tigers are beating that chest because they know that they're the talk of the town right now, even though the SEC takes priority on a lot of different days.
Mike, we just talked about Ryan Silverfield's comments about Kirby Smart's Georgia Bulldogs. What did you make of that whole interaction?
I laughed because, when you're the Tigers, and anyone who's followed Memphis knows that they're one of the best group of 5 teams, and everything that they've done in the $225 million they've put into the stadium and what they've done with their facilities and the programs. I have no idea how teams continue to pass them over when it comes to realignment and things like that. So, you know what? When you're Penny Hardaway, he's done it with all the smoke and things like that when he first got here. And now if you're Ryan, any opportunity you have to grab the spotlight, and here's a week where you're playing Arkansas out of the SEC, any chance that you can grab that national spotlight where people will be talking about Memphis, why not? And he took a little dig at Kirby Smart in Georgia, and let's be honest, Georgia has had its fair share of problems in that area. I just think it was one of those zingers, one of the little bit of shade, but I think more than anything is, you know what? There's never bad press, right? So Ryan Silverfield got the Tiger name out there, and now it's good. Now it's going to go from that to, hey, they're 3-0. Hey, look out! They beat SEC teams here before, and now they get Arkansas, who's coming off that tough loss to Ole Miss. So you know what? Good call by Ryan to get that Tiger name out there.
And you teed this up perfectly because they made a statement. They've made statements on the field before, but now they're making a statement off the field in coaches' comments there, and they have another chance to make a big statement on the field again. As you break down what's to come here for the Tigers, getting ready for this big matchup against Arkansas, what do you make of the matchup and some of the ways and some of the things you'll be looking for specifically as the Tigers and Razorbacks go head-to-head?
Well, if you look at this Memphis team, first of all, they don't really get an opportunity to take on the SEC. And now that's getting even harder with the SEC's decision a couple of weeks ago to go to a 9-game conference schedule. This Arkansas series is a 3-game series. Well, they've already moved next year's game that was supposed to be in Fayetteville to 2030. And then there's another game set for 2028. We don't even know if those games will be played.
Right.
You don't know how many chances you're going to get to see an SEC team here because let's be honest, if you only have a chance to schedule 2 teams that are not in the SEC or another Power 4, are you really going to pick a Memphis Tiger team that has been playing so very well over the last few years? So it's a great opportunity. And also, oh, by the way, the last 5 times a Power 4 team has come into Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium since 2015, all 5 have lost.
Wow.
Ole Miss twice, Mississippi State, Kansas, and UCLA. So the Tigers have dialed it up when they've had an opportunity to make a statement against a Power 4 team since 2015. But this obviously the biggest test of the season for the Tigers. Chattanooga, Georgia State, last week against Troy. They're 3-0 for the 3rd straight year. Okay, but this is what it's all about. This is the game. I know that they got Tulane coming up, who's been playing well. They got some great American Conference games still to come. But this is the game the Tiger fans have scheduled or have circled because we're going to find out a lot about what this Memphis team can do. A Memphis team that has 70 new players on the roster from just last year. That's what the portal's all about. So They've taken 70 new guys. They had 2 starters coming back this year. We're going to find out an awful lot about this Tiger team, and especially quarterback Brendan Lewis and that ground game offense of the Tigers here in just a matter of days.
We talk a little bit about the group of 5 and this, the kind of a unique situation that all of them are in. And I think what you just said about Memphis highlights this, because South Alabama is just down the road from us. We also cover Troy and Southern Miss and a few others, and we see this mass exodus, whether it's guys that are leaving to find other opportunities to play at maybe quote unquote lower programs, or teams that have snatched them up out of the program, out of the portal to go to the Power 4. How do you think Memphis has handled it so far, just given this new wave? Because they're not the only ones. Obviously, there's several other teams that are in the same category in the group of 5 having to deal with all of this. What do you think that Coach Silverfield and his crew has done in this changing landscape of Power 5 versus Group of 5 conferences?
Well, I think the one thing, and again, we don't know how long this is going to last, because the Power 4 is always trying to find a way to make sure that they keep most of the money. But as of right now, there's a Group of 5 element to the college football playoff. You got 12 teams, and one is guaranteed to a Group of 5 team. So if you're one of those guys that's looking for an opportunity to move from the Power 4 where you're not playing very much, hey, you know what? That Memphis program, they've won double-digit games the last 2 years. Right. They're one of these programs that if we can go there, and now it's the American. Boise State got beat by, South Florida out of the American. The American looks to be the league this year that's going to get that Group of 5 invitation to the playoff. So if you have that doorway, instead of going to the Power 4, not playing much, and are you really going to get in if you're the 6th or 7th best SEC or Big Ten team? Maybe. Mm-hmm. But you might have a better shot of going in the American door or going in the Group of 5 door, which gives you a chance to play in the playoff. That's why I think that's one of these things. That's the bell cow, or what the teams in the American are doing is look at us. If you look at Tulane, they're one of 8 teams in the country that already have 2 Power 4 wins. Right. And they beat Northwestern, and then they beat Duke last week. And then you got Memphis that's playing well. Army's not going to make it, but obviously they have a power. And then South Florida went into the swamp and beat what's a now not very good Florida team. But at the moment, It looked like a very, very big win. Look out for the American. Whoever wins this conference, Navy's playing well. They're going to be the team that I think gets into the playoff this year. It's not going to be a Boise State or anything like that. So that's why I think it's important for the Power 5 and what Memphis is doing. Hey, if you don't want us in realignment, well, we're going to be the best Power 5. And as long as things don't change, we want to be that team that has an opportunity to play in the playoffs, because, oh, by the way, then you can't stop us from playing an SEC or a Big Ten or an ACC team. You'll be playing in the postseason.
Put your hand on the crystal ball for a second. Let's just say they do get that invite in the near future to join a Power 4. What league do you best see them not only being able to succeed in, but makes the most sense for the university?
Well, from the university's perspective, obviously it's the Big 12 in terms of location, and which again leaves me shaking my head. It was just about a month or so ago with FedEx and AutoZone and some of the big name brands that you have in college football in the country. The university approached the Big 12 and said, hey, you know what? How about we give you $200 million and we'll also not take any money for 5 years. And then in 5 years, if we haven't amped up the conference in your eyes, you just let us go. Right. So to me, I don't see how that was a no-lose proposition for the Big 12, and they still said no. So again, I know it's about TV eyes and the TV market. I mean, we're a top 50 market, but I don't know what you can ask of the University of Memphis over the last 3 or 4 years. They've been turned down by the Big 12 over and over again. We don't know what's going to happen with the ACC. There's some programs in that conference that are not happy, obviously. But, I just don't know what else Memphis can do. But if it was to happen, I would think the Big 12 would be the right match. But how many times is the Big 12 going to say no? And the other thing is the new look Pac-12 obviously approached Memphis about joining it. Yeah. And Dr. Ed Scott, our new AD for about a year and a half now, said, that wasn't going to work for us, because you think about the travel as they mismatch that conference. A lot of people were like, what? You're not, that's going to be that's why they call it the Power 4. I mean, the Pac-12, the new look Pac-12 is still not in that aura of joining the Big Ten and the ACC and the Big 12 and those kind of things. But I really, for Tiger fans that have paid the price of doing everything that's been asked of them,
right,
and then trying to give away money and going to FedEx and AutoZone and saying, hey, will you back us with sponsorship deals? And they've done everything and have still been told no. Somebody's going to get a good team whenever somebody says yes.
No question. That's why I posed the question to see if the Pac-12 was still the Pac-2 or 5 or whatever they're going to be, if that was still an option, but it looks like the door's been certainly closed on that. Mike, I think this is really interesting because you do, like you said, you cover Ole Miss and Mississippi State as well as the Memphis Tigers. What do you make of the two schools there out of the state of Mississippi? I mean, there's lots of energy and passion and excitement going on right now. You mentioned the Rebels' big win over Arkansas last week. What do you make of Lane Training Company and what Coach Jeff Lebby's doing over there in Starkville?
You know, a lot of people might have questions about Lane Kiffin, and, you know, you lose Jackson Dart. They're another team that is reloaded through the transfer portal, always do, but they didn't need it as much as they needed it this year. And they go to Kentucky, not a great Kentucky team, ugly, but Kentucky came into Oxford last year, and that loss, along with the Florida loss, kept the Ole Miss Rebels from making the playoffs with all of those stars.
Right.
You know, Kiffin goes and, you know, Austin Simmons is banged up with a bad ankle. We're like, oh, he's going to play. And then here's a guy out of Division II Ferris that's won a national title, and Trinity Chambliss goes up and puts up 415 yards and 3 touchdowns against an Arkansas team that I know is struggling on defense. But this guy went out and goes, oh, I don't care that I went from Ferris to the SEC. Lane Kiffin just knows how to coach offense, and it doesn't matter who's under center. They just have to not lose the games that they're supposed to win.
Yep.
Tulane now comes into Oxford on Saturday. That is a very good Tulane team. You're not supposed to lose to the Wave. Arkansas is not supposed to lose to Memphis. But those are 2 games that the American is going, come on, guys. If you can do this, then that momentum keeps building. But I've always been a Lane Kiffin guy. Their defense is getting better with when you start 7 transfers on a defense that was so good last year, shore up a little bit of the running game. Kentucky ran for a bunch, and they're not a very good football team. And then you go to Jeff Lebby, who's already won more games than he did last year.
Right.
2 last year, 3 this year. But Mississippi State fans will tell you they haven't played anybody.
Right.
And they don't have it. They don't have it this week either. Northern Illinois, I know, upset Notre Dame last year, so be careful. But you got a team that's probably going to be 4-0, and then they're at home at Davis Wade next week with the Tennessee Vols coming into town that have just lost to Georgia, and they're miffed, and they're going to pound UAB this weekend. But when the SEC season starts, they went 0-8, or they went 0 for the conference last year. That's when we're really going to find out what Jeff Lebby is doing with this team. Blake Shapen, he played a few games last year, got hurt, didn't know that he was even going to come back, and then he hits that big touchdown pass to knock off Arizona State a couple of weeks ago. So if you're in Starkville, the cowbells are going crazy, but I think we're going to have to wait at least one more week to see how they perform against what is a very good and very mad Tennessee team.
And one thing before I let you go, we got to talk a little bit about Tennessee as well, because you live in this great melting pot. And you said at the top of this conversation, the fact that Memphis is so, there's so many fans that are from so many different areas, and I feel like Nashville's that way, and Knoxville is kind of almost isolated. It's all UT over there. What do you make of Tennessee after their loss in overtime to Georgia, and where they stand right now, considering their defense is the best right now in the league, and their offense is the best right now in the league, and their defense is struggling a little bit?
Well, the injuries on defense have hurt the Vols. Their secondary has been banged up. You're losing an All-American, and then your defensive line took a hit with Moy, who hasn't been able to play since the opener. Josh Heupel, like Lane Kiffin, seems to be able to do it with whatever quarterback or you give him. And I think I was really looking to see what Joey Aguilar would do in his first SEC start. He's played in some big-type games, but when you go from the Sun Belt to the SEC, and Syracuse is a pretty good team, a Power 4 team, and he lit them up. What he did in that first quarter was amazing, and I think Aguilar is the right guy. And every Tennessee fan will tell you, especially when you look at what's happening with UCLA and Nico Iamaleava, talk about making a major mistake. Nico's now looking for another team. But I think Tennessee is going to be just fine. And when you're in a 12-team playoff, when the likelihood is you're locked into probably 3 SEC teams making it, you're okay if you lose to Georgia.
Right.
But you cannot make that one loss make it 2 or 3. Because you get to 3, then you're probably going to be fighting an uphill battle to get in. But I think the Vols, for a season like Ole Miss, I think both of those teams, people overlooked them this year because of what they lost. And they're like, oh, they might take a little bit of a step back or really have to fight hard to get themselves into consideration. I think what we've seen is both of those teams, even in a loss for the Vols, you're like, well, maybe they're not taking as far of a step back this year as we thought. Right. And it's all out there for them. If you're Ole Miss, just do what you're supposed to do. And if you're Tennessee, be mad enough to knock off some people down the stretch. And I think we'll be talking about both of those teams as we start talking about Atlanta and the SEC Championship and when the playoffs roll out. But I do want to leave you with one last thought about this Arkansas-Memphis game.
Absolutely.
Which is the craziest thing that Ryan Silverfield told me about the other day. When they roll out at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium on Saturday, Taylon Green, the Hogs' star quarterback who's been playing well, he will have played more games inside Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium this weekend than the new Tiger quarterback.
Wow.
Because he's a transfer.
Yeah.
Brendan Lewis is a transfer. He has played one game inside the Sim here in Memphis. For Taylon Green, this will be his 3rd game inside Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium. He came in with Boise State a couple of years ago.
That's right.
And Austin Genty, when the Tigers gave up 17 early and then beat that Boise State team. And then Taylon Green came here for the AutoZone Liberty Bowl in December, and he set an Arkansas bowl game record when they beat Texas Tech. But now he has played more games, 2-1, to the new Tiger starting quarterback. But, hey, Brendan Lewis and this Tiger ground game, Arkansas, I know, struggles with the pass. But that, if you asked me earlier about a key to this game, control Taylon Green, which no one's been able to do.
Right. Yep.
But if they can get that ground game going with the dual threat quarterback of Brendan Lewis, like I said, they're 5-0 since 2015 against Power 4 teams, and that includes 3 wins against the SEC. Tiger fans excited about 11 a.m. Saturday.
That's a crazy, crazy stat. And let's just say that they average, 70 plays a game. That's like, 140 to 200-something plays that Taylon Green's had as compared to the starting quarterback for Memphis. So Patrick and I played the guess the line game because we know the matchup was coming up, but we hadn't seen the line. But both the line on the earlier matchup we talked about, but also the line on Memphis, Arkansas, that's only 11.5, 8.5 was what it was. So, I mean, it sounds like Vegas is saying, hey, this is a real chance here for the Tigers to win this football game.
Well, Gerhard, think about this, though. I may be incorrect, but when it first started, it was like a 3.5 or 4. Wow. So then it ballooned quickly to 7.5.
Right.
But don't underestimate what you've seen in the last 2 games of Arkansas this season. Taylon Green has hobbled in the 4th quarter of both of those games. Yeah. He's going to play, and the man is electric. Tigers defensive coordinator Jordan Hankins says, I think he's 3 inches taller and a lot faster and making more plays than he did with Boise State just a couple of years ago. The guy is one of the best quarterbacks in college football. And this defense for the Tigers, they have not given up a point in the last 6 quarters and only 1 second-half touchdown all year, all with new faces. The only touchdown they gave up against Troy was a fumble return by that Trojan defense. So I just think that it's one of those games that, it's gone from 3.5 to 8 or 8.5 or whatever. But if this Tiger defense can contain, because they've given up some big plays on defense, but Jordan Hankins, I had one of the better quotes so far this football season. He said, I only care about 2 lines on a football field, and that's the 2 goal lines. Yes. I don't care if my guys give up 99 yards. If they make a stop at the 1, that's all I care about. So give up big plays, but do it and keep the Hogs out of the end zone. And I think we're going to be talking about another close game, and who knows, maybe Arkansas is going to cancel both of the other games left on this series if they lose on that.
Probably so, the way this was going. Mike Ceide, phenomenal job breaking down not only this football game, but all the other teams that are close to your area. You sit in a really nice melting pot, and you do a beautiful job being able to analyze all of them the way that they are now, and obviously your historical perspective as well. Thank you so much for joining us here on Southeast Sports Plus.
Thanks, guys. You have a great day. Appreciate you.